back, legends. We are checking out the Strymon Cloudburst today. A big thank you to my buddy Stu for letting me borrow their personal pedal. They actually packaged this one up and sent it to me all the way across the Australian continent, and I'm going to give it back to Stu when they come and visit Perth. So pretty excited to check this one out. It looks like a pretty standard reverb pedal on here, as with anything Strymon. Lots of people have been talking about this one. 5 main knobs with pretty kind of normal sounding control names, but there is this ensemble mode accessible via a 3-way switch, which I'm very curious to hear. It's stereo in and out as well, uses TRS jacks on there, so I'm using some TRS to dual TS cables in order to access that. We're going to hear it with some absolute filth to start. I'll do some kind of clean ambient noodling, and then we'll compare it to a few other popular reverbs out there, or some reverbs that I have here anyway. I don't know if they're super popular or not, but I like the way they sound. So let's start off with the non-reverberated signal. Like those shorter decay times as a thickening agent on dirty guitar, and as you can hear, you can get pretty much infinite reverb times on there. Doesn't get too carried away or anything like that, even with the modulation cranked, and the tone control has a nice range on there. If that was all it did, it's a pretty sweetly voiced reverb, kind of reminiscent, I guess, of maybe the studio mode on something like a Big Sky. All right, let's hear this ensemble mode. I'm going to crank the decay up on here. I'll just leave the mix at about halfway up. I'm going to turn the modulation all the way off. I'll give it a little bit of pre-delay, but not too much. We'll just kind of hear the difference, and I'm very curious to hear the kind of quiet mode and the loud mode on here. having the forte mode on there. It doesn't sound like shimmer to me, which I don't know why. I just expected it to sound like a kind of typical shimmer in there. Kind of sounds like there is a proper synthesized string pad playing behind there, which is really, really unique. I'll do a comparison with some shimmer reverbs, like I said, later in the video, but for now, let's try it with some clean guitar. I kind of like having that forte mode on there with some modulation, but I'm going to turn it off for now. Let's just hear some clean strat tones. I'll noodle around and kick it in. Let's go. Kind of expect nothing less from Strymon, that this would be incredibly fun to play. But I think they even outdid themselves on this one. It's such a creative use of that like string synthesizer with reverb. If you haven't checked out my video with the Electro Harmonix String 9, I love that pedal. One thing that I did say on there is that I wish it kind of had a nice big built-in reverb. Strymon have kind of taken the opposite approach where they've taken a reverb and added a string machine to it. So with a mix at 100%, that is seriously addictive. And I think if you just want a pedal to play a pedal and get a cool sound, this is a pretty good way to spend your money. As a traditional reverb pedal, it is totally capable, as we heard at the start as well. You know, it just feels like one of those things, if you don't already have this, then you've probably heard it and figured out that it's not really for you. But getting past any kind of hype or buzz, it's pretty unique. I really, really like that. What I want to do now is I've got a Meris Mercury 7 on here, an Eventide H90, and I can play a like shimmer patch through my Axe effects and just let you hear that this isn't really a shimmer reverb. So I'll let you hear that kind of forte mode again. Let's crank up the level on it and the decay. Then we'll hear the Mercury 7. Then we'll hear Blackhole on the H90. Then we'll hear Blackhole and Crystals together on the H90. And then we'll hear the Ursa Major reverb on the Fractal. I'll just label everything so that I don't have to talk through it. Let's start with the Cloudburst. That's pretty interesting on there. You can hear that shimmer octave up thing on the Mercury 7 is a little metallic sounding. They have purposefully gone for like an 80s style, you know, not super hi-fi, not super smooth thing on there. You know, it's the Blade Runner reverb on there. So that's designed primarily to work with kind of like big keyboard pads. The Blackhole, totally different thing going on there. There's this kind of big swell that is just an ambient reverb. With the crystals, it is super cool on there. And then the Ursa Major on the Fractal, that to me is such an amazing modern sounding shimmer. It's really, really smooth. There's a beautiful decay to it. It's just lush and hi-fi and really pristinely voiced. None of them sound like the Cloudburst. The Cloudburst has its own thing going on. So what I'm going to do is actually just wrap this video up because I think this pedal kind of speaks for itself. I kind of want one now just for that one sound in there. I think I could probably get by with my EHX String 9 and like the Ursa reverb on the Fractal or something like that. But it's pretty cool. I think if you'll like the way that sounds, there's nothing else out there that's going to do it. Just go and do it. Strymon stuff is amazing. It deserves its reputation. They don't make bad pedals. They just make pedals that may not appeal to certain players. I really like the form factor as well. And, you know, if the Cloudburst is their reverb take, you know, Cloudburst to Big Sky, what's the equivalent going to be for Timeline whenever they come out with something like that? Or in modulation, I really like the size of the pedal and the routing options. It's just like a masterclass in giving people just enough stuff to play around with to get a whole bunch of different inspiring sounds. It really is minimalist. And minimalist doesn't mean that you just have a small amount of things. It means that you just have the essential things you need. In this case, to make a bunch of inspiring kind of paddy reverb sounds. This is probably going to be the sound of, you know, worship music for the next 10 years until Strymon come out with something else. You know, that may be the knock on it, that it is a very distinct, unique thing. I can see it becoming a gimmick, but at the same time, it is just unashamedly fun. So I really, really like it. I'm going to just play you all out with this forte mode on here. Crank up the mix so it's 100% wet. I'm going to leave the Ursa Major reverb on the Fractal on, and let's just see where we end up. Thanks again to Stu. Send him some love in the comment section below. It's been a pleasure checking out this pedal. I can certainly understand why you bought one, Stu. It sounds super inspiring. If you were using this on guitar or on keyboards, you're just going to be having a good time pretty much all the time. Yeah, Strymon, nailing it again. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like what I'm doing on the channel, check the video description for ways to support what I'm doing. And yeah, let's go. Let's check it out.